Terrific! Today I'm going to test a set of two-way radios, the Retevis RT647. And yeah, I've made a lot of two-way radio reviews on my channel already. So let me quickly show you the playlist here. You can go to my channel page and look for the two-way radio playlist and find a bunch of different reviews from different manufacturers. I'm trying to be balanced here. Let me know what other manufacturers you want to see that I haven't tested yet, if that's the case. And these Retevis are pretty nice because they have a charging station included, which I'm going to show to you in a second. That can be very interesting. Some people, they might want to use the radios only occasionally. And if you plan to use them more often, a docking station is definitely something that you can consider whether you want to have that or not. And that's what I'm going to show you. Right now you're watching the introductory part. In part 2, I'm going to do a quick unboxing, show you what's inside the package. And then in part 3, I'm going to go outside and do the range test. Always keep in mind, take these range tests with a grain of salt. If it is a European PMR radio especially, it only has the 0.5 watts output power. So if you're in the US, make sure to look for the FRS version that has a higher output power, so you get definitely better performance out of those. But regardless, whether you use the European radios or the American radios in the US, the same physics always applies. So if you're somewhere downtown, skyscrapers, or skyscrapers is a little bit excessive, but you know, you have a lot of buildings, the signal eventually will get sucked up by obstacles. So a rule of thumb is the less obstacles you have, the easier time the signal has to travel, so you get a higher range. Vice versa, if you have lots of obstacles, the range tends to decrease. So if you really want to know for sure what the range is, just get a budget pair and test it in different places where you're planning to use that, so that you get a feel. Where I live, in my area, where I use the radios, I have a pretty good feel for how much range I'm going to get, and then I know is that appropriate for my application. Guys, I digress a lot, but I want to share that insight with you. That's actually kind of useful. So why don't we just get rolling with the unboxing and then do the range test. I'm excited you're here. Let's look at these Retevis radios. And terrific, right now we jump to the unboxing part. And one thing I failed to mention initially is they don't only have a docking station, they are also waterproof. So that's also, we're going to test not only the range, I'm also going to drop them in some water and see how well they handle that. Here you have a nice little explanation of the IP rating if you're not familiar with it. One number is always for the dust resistance and the other one for the water resistance. And you can read the readings here, what is according to which rating. So that's kind of nice that they have included that, because some radios, they are fully immersible, some they only can have light rain. So depending on how you're planning to use this, you can pay attention to that as well. So let's have a closer look at the radio and the battery itself. Here you see the docking station, which we're going to just use for charging just in a minute. Very handy if you're using this more regularly, maybe on a construction site or something like this. So let's take these out. And like I always like to do for you guys, a nice close-up shot of these radios. I think this is 1100 milliamp hours. Yes, it is. And you see they have some rubberized seal that helps to make it more protected against the elements. So let's quickly put the battery in, and it is already turned on. And yeah, you can flip to the channels here. Very straightforward. I like these radios because they have a very simple design. Volume knob, channel selector, and then push to talk. And they feel good in your hand. Here again, I think this also helps to protect it against elements. And here the charging dock. Belt clip we can attach as well. And why don't I put both next to each other and do a quick initial check whether they work. Test 1 2, test 1 2. We will turn it a little bit louder. Test 1 2, test 1 2. That looks good, but obviously before you use your radios, you should always make sure to charge them. So that's what we're going to do next. And then, and like usual, my charging corner. So that's something you want to consider. Always before you use the radios the first time, put in the battery, turn everything off, And yeah, they have a docking station, which is kind of cool, but please make sure this is a USB docking station. So if you don't have a bunch of USB power supplies handy, I mean, you need at least 2 for this pair, then what I always put off is getting this Retevis 5-port charger. So if you plan to use more radios, that can be quite handy. For example, you want to use this commercially, then you have, or for business, or a little bit more enthusiast, recreational, then you can have this 5-port charger. So let me quickly plug this in, because I really want to go out and do the range test. Power on this power bar, and then you can see here, red means it is charging, and if it's fully charged, it would be illuminated green. So I like to let these charge completely before using them the first time, and that way we are ready for the range test and water test. So I'm back in just a second. And first I went outside for you guys to test the license-free radios from Retevis in the garden. And I have my handy garden hose, and what I always like to do is give them a thorough spray. So let me zoom in for you a little bit here. I have to do this all handheld without spraying the camera, and let's simulate some pretty strong rain and see how these radios performs. Usually I've tested various Retevis radios in the past, and they handle the rain just fine. Only thing that usually happens when you spray them, especially directly, pretty strong water spray, that the speakers sometimes can sound a little bit muffled, and the microphone can be more quiet simply because the water a little bit collects there. And a good advice is then to dry them off. So light rain should be no problem, but heavy rain over a prolonged period of time, what I'm testing right here, then usually the volume is a little bit lower, which returns back to normal when you dry it off afterwards. So let's stop the rain and see how the radios look after the test. And yeah, they're still turned on. Test 1 2, test 1 2, and you see it's still receiving, but I can already tell just by looking at it. Yeah, you hear something, but the volume is turned all the way up, so the rain exposure temporarily makes them quieter. So let's dry them off and do the range test next. And range check of the Retevis radios, the waterproof Retevis radios at test point number 1, with only 420 feet of these European PMR radios. So let's see how that sounds and how the sound quality is. The waterproof mics usually respond a little bit different than the normal non-waterproof mics on the PMR radios. So let's see how this performs. Test point number 1, 420 feet. And again, range check of these black Retevis radios at test point number 2, with approximately 790 feet. Let's see how these radios sound, and we have also a slight breeze. Interesting to see how the microphone is going to handle this. A little bit stronger breeze right now. Test point number 2, 790 feet. Whoa, lots of wind. And again, range check. I reached the next range test point number 3. Awesome spring weather day. Test range distance is 1,250 feet. Keep in mind that I'm testing the European version. The US version has approximately 4 times the output power. Test point number 3, 1,250 feet. And again, next range check of these Retevis radios. I'm kind of curious to see how the waterproof microphone sounds. Test point number 4, 1,540 feet approximately. And yeah, should be so audible. And let's go quite a bit further. Range check of the Retevis radios. And terrific weather. You can not only enjoy the plants outside, but also the birds that are looking for food. It's kind of interesting to see all this wildlife here. Test point number 5 with 2,000 feet, and yeah, awesome day today. Let's see how this sounds, and I'm going to be next, back in a second at the next range test point. And
range check of the Retevis radios at test point number 6, test point number 6. Sometimes the radios, the quality starts to deteriorate slightly, but the Retevis usually does a good job. Test point number 6, 2,300 feet, 2,300 feet. Test point number 6. And range check at the next range checkpoint. Really awesome spring day. Flight with medium breeze. Test point number 8 with 0.6 miles approximately, or 3,200 feet. Test point number 8. And I skipped test point number 7. Test point number 8, about 0.6 miles. Should still be audible. And again, guys, range check at test point number 9, test point number 9, with approximately 3/4 of a mile, or 3,900 feet. And I'm really curious to see how these Retevis radios perform, especially how sensitive the built-in microphone is of these PMR radios. And awesome weather. I'm enjoying doing the test point number 9, 3/4 of a mile. And range check, guys, at the last range check point of the waterproof Retevis radio, test point number 10, almost a mile. And for European radios that only have 0.5 watts, that's pretty okay on my test route. I could get a little bit further, but it's just for reference testing, and if you're in the US, you have the higher output power anyway. So test point number 10, almost a mile. This concludes the range test of the waterproof Retevis radio.
Terrific. This concludes the test of the Retevis RT647 waterproof two-way radios, and as you have seen, they perform really good in a variety of circumstances. I dunked them into the water, I walked my test route. Overall, I can say, given the fact that those are the PMR radios, the European version, that only have 0.5 watts, that's totally okay. That's the performance I've come to expect from these types of radios. If you're in the United States, you have an advantage. You can be happy, you can be smiling right now, because in the US, you have the FRS with 2 watts output power. That gives you much more juice to punch through some trees when you're on a hike or something like this. This concludes the review. Awesome for tuning in. I've shown you the details about these radios. I like that they have the charging stations. I think that's really handy. You just put them into the docking station and to the charger, and that's much more convenient. And then as if you have to plug somewhere into the side of the radio when you're charging them. So having the charging contacts in a docking station is useful. At the end of the day, you recharge them, and in the morning you take them out again, you're done. Make sure that you have a USB power supply, two USB power supplies, and if you don't have them handy, then maybe look at the Retevis 5-port USB charger. That can also be an interesting accessory. This concludes the test. Awesome for tuning in. I see you as a subscriber, and in the next video, take care. And because you just watched this video, you might also be interested in comparing it against, for example, a digital radio. Those are not as common yet as other radios, but I reviewed this Radioddity GD73E recently. There are different versions of them. This was the European license-free one, but the US one is kind of similar. So that you can find on my channel page in the playlist Two-Way Radios. Awesome for tuning in. I see you in the next video. Take care.